Imagine this. Spring, 735 AD. The port of Naniwa, what we now call Osaka, is bustling. Early cherry blossoms drift on the breeze. A single ship from the Korean kingdom of Baekje glides into the harbor. Its prow, lacquered a deep ceremonial red, cuts silently through the water. It carries a tribute of shimmering silk bolts, polished bronze mirrors, and precious ginseng roots. But it also carries an invisible passenger, a microscopic stowaway that will, in just 2 years, erase 1/3 of Japan's entire population. According to the Nihon Shoki, the official court history written just a few decades later, the epidemic began almost the moment the ship docked. The disease moved with terrifying speed, racing up the Yodo River and exploding inside the brand new imperial capital, Haiju-Kyo, modern-day Nara. Nara wasn't just any city. It was a marvel of planning, a perfect grid of wide avenues, vermilion palace gates, and elegant tiled roofs, all modeled on the grand capital of Tan, China. This city, built to showcase Japan's rising power and sophistication, was about to become its funeral pyre. The killer was Variola Major, the most vicious strain of smallpox. It was the same merciless virus that would, centuries later, help annihilate the Aztec and Inca empires. We know this for a fact. In 2021, geneticists from Kyoto University and the Max Planck Institute confirmed it, extracting intact viral DNA from the teeth of skeletons unearthed at the Fujiwara Palace site. For a population with absolutely no prior exposure, no immunity whatsoever, the results were catastrophic. Mortality rates nationwide shot up to between 25 and 35%. Some provinces reported losses closer to 50%. The Nihon Shoki gives a conservative death toll of 1.5 million. But modern demographic studies, published in the Journal of Historical Demography, push that figure towards 2 million people. That's roughly 1 in every 3 Japanese souls. To put that in perspective, it's a proportionally greater loss of life than Europe suffered during the Black Death. The symptoms were the stuff of nightmares. Court physicians, writing in classical Chinese for the Imperial Archives, described how it started. A soaring fever, a blinding headache, and then the eruption. Pustules, thick and angry, would cover the body from scalp to soles. Faces would swell until eyes vanished behind bloated lids. The pustules would burst and crust over, and those who survived were often left permanently pockmarked or even blind. The capital city descended into chaos. The Shoku Nihonji, another official history, tells us the stench of the dead reached even the inner palace. Corpses lay in the streets so thick that carts could not pass. Imagine Nara's wide, elegant boulevards, lined with beautiful tiled roof houses and red torii gates, now choked with bodies. The bodies piled up, untouched, because the living were either too sick or too terrified to move them. Funeral processions clogged every city gate. Priests in their white robes and black lacquered hats would collapse and die in the middle of their chants. No one was safe, not even the imperial family. Emperor Shomu, who was still just a young man, lost his mother and several of his siblings. The Fujiwara clan, the powerful family who were the chief architects of this new capital, saw entire branches of their lineage wiped out almost overnight. The court abandoned all protocol. The Nihon Shoki records nobles fleeing the palace in such a panic that their fine court dress was left, abandoned in the corridors, silk robes rotting where they fell. The great bronze Buddha at Todeiji Temple, which was still under construction, stood half-finished. The workers who were casting it were dying by the hundreds. The air, once filled with the calming scent of incense from thousands of prayers, now mixed with the stomach-turning reek of unburied bodies drifting across the palace grounds. And rural Japan fared no better. Provincial governors sent frantic messages to the capital. Entire villages were empty. Rice paddies lay untended, their precious crops withering in the fields. Tax records were burned because there was simply no one left alive to collect from. In Kyushu and eastern Honshu, local chronicles describe a mortality rate so high that only dogs and crows remained. The Manushu, Japan's oldest anthology of poetry, was compiled just a few years after the plague. It contains heartbreaking elegies written by survivors who had watched their parents, their children, and their lovers die before their eyes. One poem, stark in its grief, simply reads, "My house is silent. The cherry blossoms fall on no one. The government was desperate. They tried everything. Empress Komyu ordered the mass copying of Buddhist sutras in gold ink, believing that the accumulation of spiritual merit would end the calamity. Temples overflowed with the dying, seeking last rites. Shinto priests performed purification rituals at every crossroads. Nothing worked. The disease was relentless. The court even fled Nara, setting up temporary palaces in the mountains, but the smallpox followed them like a shadow. Modern epidemiologists have noted this as one of the earliest documented attempts at a royal quarantine, and one of its earliest failures. Society itself began to crumble. Law and order broke down. Tax collection ceased completely. The Ritsuryo state, Japan's proud, new, Chinese-style bureaucracy, was pushed to the very brink of disintegration. Archaeological surveys have uncovered hundreds of rural settlements that were abandoned between 735 and 740. Their wooden houses simply collapsed back into the earth, leaving only post holes and shattered roof tiles for us to find. Rice production plummeted by an estimated 40%, triggering a massive famine that killed thousands more who had survived the plague. The imperial court's own granaries were empty. Even the emperor's household was reduced to eating millet instead of polished rice. Then, by 737, the storm finally passed. But the landscape of Japan had been forever changed. The population had dropped from around 5 or 6 million to just 3.5 to 4 million. The court returned to a half-empty Nara. Its wide, grand avenues were now lined with weeds pushing up through the cracked paving stones. The Great Bronze Buddha was finally completed in 752, but its dedication ceremony was a somber affair. The grand empire Japan had dreamed of building had been reduced by a third. In the aftermath, a new political reality emerged. The Fujiwara clan, despite its horrific losses, consolidated its power. They married their daughters into the imperial line, beginning a centuries-long domination of the court. Some historians argue that the smallpox catastrophe created the very power vacuum that allowed the Fujiwara to seize control, effectively ruling Japan from behind the throne for generations. Today, modern excavations beneath Nara continue to unearth the grim evidence of this tragedy. Mass graves near the old palace hold hundreds of skeletons, thrown in without ceremony. Many of these bones show the characteristic pitting scars that are the telltale sign of smallpox. And as we mentioned, DNA analysis has confirmed it was Variola major, identical to strains found in contemporary Korean burial sites. This story from 1300 years ago isn't just history. The CDC still maintains active surveillance for any re-emergence of smallpox. While officially eradicated in the wild, the virus still exists in secure freezers. And more chillingly, a 2023 paper in the journal Nature warned that synthesizing the full smallpox genome is now technically feasible with commercially available DNA printers. It's a sobering reminder of how fragile our world can be. How one single tribute ship, on one spring day in 735 AD, carried an invisible passenger that rewrote the future of an entire nation. The story of Japan's great smallpox epidemic is a testament to resilience, but also a chilling warning from the past about the power of disease to shape human history. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating and terrifying as I did, please hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. See you next time.
Subscribe today. Click the button.